In this video, I'll be covering Chapter 5, Golden Child Crimson Blood, and exploring how it ties into Journey to the West. And sorry in advance for any mispronunciations. In Journey to the West, Red Boy is the son of the Bull Demon King and Princess Ironfan, aka Princess Rakshasi. When Red Boy learns of the pilgrim's arrival, he plans to capture Tanzan so he and his father can eat the monk's flesh and extend their lifespans. In Journey to the West, there is a legend which says that one can attain immortality by consuming the monk's flesh. Now, although Red Boy is a child, he wields significant power, ruling over lesser demons and deities. When Red Boy first appears to the pilgrims, he uses deception, pretending to be a helpless boy tied to a tree. After the travelers rescue him, Sun Wukong sees through his disguise and prepares to kill Red Boy. Unfortunately, Sun Wukong's attempt to kill Red Boy fails. Enraged that Sun Wukong tried to kill him, Red Boy conjures a powerful whirlwind around Wukong and kidnaps Tanzan in the chaos, taking him to his fire wind cave. Red Boy prepares to cook Tanzan, but gets alerted by his lesser demons that Sun Wukong and Zubashie have showed up outside of the cave, demanding that Red Boy release the monk. Red Boy ordered the lesser demons to push 5 carts outside the cave in the order of the 5 elements. Wukong tried to reason with Red Boy, saying he was the sworn brother of the Bull Demon King, which technically made Wukong a relative of Red Boy. But Red Boy did not believe Wukong's statements. Red Boy and Wukong fought for 20 rounds with Zubashie later joining the fray. When Zubashie joined the fight, Red Boy stood in the middle of the 5 carts and punched himself twice in the nose. He set a spell and spewed out fire from his nostrils. Fire blew out of the 5 carts and spread everywhere. Wukong struggled against Red Boy's inextinguishable Samadhi fire and ultimately sought help from Bodhisattva Guanyin after nearly being defeated. Zubashie volunteered to ask for help as Wukong was still recovering. Zubashie attempts to get Guanyin's assistance, but is tricked by Red Boy, who disguises himself as Guanyin and captures Bashie. Realizing that Bashie is missing, Wukong lures the lesser demons away and learns that Red Boy sent out 6 little devils who are his warriors: Mist in the Cloud, Clouds in the Mist, Fire Fast, Windy Speed, Heater, and Cooker, to invite his father, the Bull Demon King, to the cave and share Tanzan as a meal. Learning this, Wukong disguises himself as the Bull King and is taken to Red Boy, who grows suspicious. He asks his father when his son's birthday is. Wukong, who is currently transformed into the Bull King, does not remember. This prompts Red Boy to attack, but Wukong escapes and seeks Guanyin's help. Upon hearing that Red Boy tricked Bashie by transforming into Guanyin, she furiously flung a vase into the sea. A tortoise returned it, the vase now full of water equivalent of the sea. Because Wukong could not carry it, Guanyin came with him. She vanquished the still burning Samadhi fire with the sea full of water in her vase of purity. She then put a confusion spell on Wukong's palm and ordered him to lure Red Boy out. When Red Boy confronts Wukong, he uses the confusion spell on Red Boy. Red Boy then confronted Guanyin, who ignored his demands. Red Boy tried to pierce Guanyin with his spear, but she and Wukong disappeared in a beam of golden light. They appeared in the highest heavens and watched Red Boy find Guanyin's empty throne. Red Boy sits in Guanyin's throne and suddenly the throne transforms into 36 pole star swords, which pierced and wounded Red Boy. Guanyin then offered Red Boy a choice: accept her teachings or face continued punishment. Red Boy accepts. Guanyin then places 5 magical bands on him that bind him, 2 for the ankles, 2 for the wrists, and 1 for the head. Much like the headband on Wukong, when Guanyin recites a mantra, the bands tighten, causing Red Boy pain. In his defeated state, Red Boy bows to Guanyin, who becomes his teacher. This defeat strains Wukong's relationship with Princess Rakshasi, who is the mother of Red Boy. Now, Princess Ironfan, or Princess Rakshasi, is a demoness married to the Bull Demon King and the mother of Red Boy. She feels both anger and disappointment towards her husband for his affair with the fox spirit Princess Jadeface. Princess Jadeface is Ping Ping's mother. Basically, Red Boy and Ping Ping are step-siblings, and the Bull King had an affair with Princess Jadeface. I'd also like to point out that Princess Jadeface was killed by Zubagier, and this is pointed out in the ending cutscene for the chapter. Princess Ironfan possesses the magical banana leaf fan, a large fan made from banana leaves, which has extraordinary properties. This fan can extinguish all fire, including those from the flaming mountain. The fan can also summon powerful whirlwinds, and anyone caught in the winds are blown away for 84,000 miles. The only thing immune to its effects is a wind-arresting elixir, which Wukong borrowed from Bodhisattva Lingji. This is probably the wind tamer which we receive in the secret area from chapter 2. Princess Ironfan uses her fan to extort favors from local residents, providing temporary fire extinguishment for a year at a time. When Wukong and his companions arrive, they encounter volcanic mountains that block their path. Wukong seeks to borrow the fan to quell the flames, but is initially rejected due to his strained relationship with Princess Rakshasi because of Wukong's earlier conflict with Red Boy. Determined, Wukong cunningly transforms into a fly and enters Princess Rakshasi's body, causing her discomfort until she reluctantly gives him the fan. Only Rakshasi was clever, she gave him a fake fan. This fan only intensifies the flames. Wukong then disguises himself as her husband to obtain the real fan. When the Bull King learns of this, he becomes angry and he too disguises himself as Zubagier and tricks Wukong into handing over the fan. Basically, first Wukong tricked Rakshasi to steal the real fan, but then got tricked by the Bull King into giving the fan back. And yes, the Bull King, similar to Wukong, can also transform into various things. Once Wukong realizes he's been tricked into giving back the real fan, a fight takes place between Wukong and the Bull King. In the fight against Sun Wukong and Zubagier, the Bull King reveals his true form, a giant white bull, and attempts to charge towards his opponents. Eventually, with orders from the Buddha and the Jade Emperor, heavenly troops arrive to assist Wukong. The heavenly forces that arrive to assist Wukong include Li Jing, also known as pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li, his third son, Prince Neza, and the 4 heavenly kings. These heavenly troops were sent to exterminate the Bull King, in order to clear a path for Wukong's group to continue west to obtain the scriptures. When Prince Neza fails to vanquish Bull Demon King after repeatedly beheading him, he attaches one of his flaming wheels to the Bull Demon King's horn, horrifically burning him and causing him great pain. Meanwhile, Li Jing uses an imp-reflecting mirror to prevent the Bull King from shapeshifting and escaping. This is probably similar to the mirror that we see in chapter 4 where Zubagier's true form is revealed. After the Bull King is captured, he is brought to the heaven to let the Jade Emperor decide his fate. Afterwards, Princess Rakshasi is forced to surrender the real fan, which Wukong uses to extinguish the flaming mountain's fire, and recognizing her prowess, forgives Princess Rakshasi and returns the fan to her. In chapter 5 of Black Myth Wukong, Red Boy returns from his time spent under the guidance of Bodhisattva Guanyin. Meanwhile, Ping Ping, the daughter of the Bull King and Princess Jadeface, has grown up and is now under the care of Princess Rakshasi. Now you might be a little confused about why Wukong and the Bull Demon King are fighting despite being sworn brothers. The timeline is somewhat as follows. Before Wukong was imprisoned in the rock by the Buddha, there was an alliance of demon kings who all became sworn brothers with Sun Wukong. They were the 7 great sages. Among these was the Bull Demon King, who styled himself as the great sage who pacifies heaven, and Wukong referred to himself as the great sage equal to heaven. At some point, Sun Wukong rebelled against the Celestial Palace, and the 7 great sages, including Sun Wukong, all fought together against the Celestial Palace. The secret ending animation hints at this. This is where Wukong fights against Erlang. In Journey to the West, the result is a draw, and because of that the Jade Emperor turns to the Buddha for help, who ends up imprisoning Wukong under a mountain for 500 years. Now after 500 years, Wukong is freed from the mountain thanks to Tanzan, who accepts Wukong as a disciple to help retrieve the scriptures. It was during their path to retrieve the scriptures that Wukong runs into the Bull Demon King. With their way blocked off by flames, they require Princess Rakshasi's fan in order to progress, and it was in the process of acquiring the fan that Wukong ended up clashing against the Bull King. Wukong remarks, "Wretched bull, ill luck plagues your every step. Never have you made a good choice." His first bad choice was siding with Wukong and going against the Celestial Court, which brought the heavens' wrath upon him and his family. The ill luck that plagues the bull is shown in this scene, showing the aftermath of the battle. In his absence, Princess Rakshasi was forced to drink from the river of childbearing to bear Red Boy. The bull detests the child, but afraid of the heavenly court, did nothing about it. The scene then skips forward at least 500 years, since we see Rakshasi pleading with the Bull Demon King to give away her fan to the monkey. We then see a somewhat defeated bull, with Wukong saying, "Your brother I've disciplined. Your boy I've given away. Your wife's fan, today I'll take that with me too." Let me break these down. The first thing he says is, "Your brother I've disciplined." I believe this is referring to the Bull Demon King's brother, Immortal Ryu. In Journey to the West, Tanzan and Tsubashiye accidentally drink from the spring of pregnancy and become pregnant. Shocking, I know. They seek the spring of abortion to, well, get an abortion. This spring is controlled by Ruyi, and in order to access the spring, women must present gifts to Ruyi. Unfortunately, Ruyi harbors animosity towards Sun Wukong due to his nephew's fate, aka Red Boy. When Sun Wukong seeks the water, he faces Ruyi's hostility, but ultimately outsmarts him and defeats him. This is the brother Wukong is referring to in this dialogue. "Your boy I've given away." This is referring to Red Boy being taken by Guanyin. "Your wife's fan today, I'll take that with me too." And that's referring to the plantain fan that Princess Rakshasi possesses. Wukong leans closer to the bull and says, "Find a master and serve the right. It's the only path left for the likes of us. Don't you understand, brother?" The Wukong that accompanied the pilgrimage used to think that by serving the right, which in this case are the Buddhas and Celestials, beings like Wukong and the bull could make a place for themselves. And by beings like the bull and Wukong, I'm referring to Yaoguais. Now I pointed out that the bull's first mistake was going against the Celestial Court. The bull's second mistake was going against the pilgrimage, by not giving the fan to Wukong, which caused the celestial forces to appear, and ultimately the bull is defeated. The scene then shifts to the present, Wukong defeated. He says, "The way I saw it, with enough merit and enough position before the Buddha, they would leave me be and all of you as well. Now I see, for someone like me, staying alive is enough to be a transgression. Brother, take care of your wife and children, and remember, steer clear of my remains." It truly is very sad. The story culminates in a touching moment where Wukong, injured and reflecting on his choices, realizes that his quest for merit and position before the Buddha was all in vain. No matter how many things they do to curry favor with heaven, no matter how hard they serve the right, the court would always consider Yaoguais as criminals, with peace only granted upon death. Now following Wukong's death, the Bull Demon King decides to heed Wukong's warning. The bull swallows the relic and keeps it in his stomach so that his wife and children don't get caught up in the mess. Over time, the bull becomes more and more feeble, and he patiently waits for us to arrive. Part of me thinks these relics were forced upon these demons as a way to keep them in check. It's already clear that the Celestials see the Yaoguais as nothing more than criminals. The relics bring trouble, and Wukong knew this, which is why he warned the bull. It also became clear from the previous chapter that we aren't the first monkey to set out looking for these relics. Even the Yellow Wind Sage mentions this. I cannot escape, and nor can you. In short, as long as you possess a relic, you will always have conflict knocking on your doorstep, in the form of monkeys looking for it. But this is mostly speculation. Okay, now that you're hopefully caught up with all that, I'm going to jump into the journal entries for the Yaksha King, Red Boy, Princess Rakshasi, Keeper of the Flaming Mountain, and the Bull King. The lore bits are sort of all over the place and a little bit confusing, so I've pieced together what I could and speculated a little bit. I'll be jumping back and forth, so bear with me. The raging flames had reached the Golden Hall, and the sounds of battle outside were deafening, though they were muffled within. The king, gravely wounded, sat amidst the wreckage, holding a recently deceased young boy in his arms. A figure stood behind the curtain, sighing, "Such devastation. Don't you see, it's all because of you." The king remained silent. Whether the Yaksha royal lineage continues or ends depends entirely on your decision today. The king couldn't help but glance around the Golden Hall, still able to see traces of its former glory. They say Yakshas are the most resolute, yet you, as their king, are hesitant and indecisive. The king gently stroked his son's face, the body still warm. He wished so dearly that the boy could see the vast and beautiful world. If you have even a shred of lingered desire, why not try my method? The unattainable wish in your heart, I will take care of it for you. As a king, was he not even allowed to die on the battlefield? The king closed his eyes. Finally, he opened them and said slowly, "Since there is no salvation, I will leave me and my son at your disposal." Splendid. It's not too late to understand it now. The figure clapped, and a white-clad Taoist emerged from behind. The Taoist approached the Yaksha King, bowed, then sat cross-legged on the ground. He extended his hands above the boy's head and began to chant softly. Before long, a small blood-red lotus flower emerged slowly from the boy's forehead, crystal clear and vibrant. The Taoist carefully plucked the lotus and placed it into a bowl he carried. The Yaksha King fixed his unblinking gaze intently at the lotus. The figure said, "The red lotus is the essence of your son's soul. To ensure it does not dissipate before successful reincarnation, we will need your life and the water from the river of childbearing." The Yaksha King raised his arm, taking one last look at the blood lotus. "I will do it myself." Now we know from the journal entry for the red-haired Yaksha, the kingdom of Yaksha was attacked by Arats. It was also mentioned that Arats are essentially Yellowbrow's elite soldiers, kind of. It seems the previous Yaksha King sacrificed himself to give his son, or rather his dead son, a chance to be reincarnated, or resurrected. The offerings included the soul of his child, or the soul of his dead child, water from the river of childbearing, and the Yaksha King's life. This might explain why Red Boy was able to transform into the Yaksha King upon consuming Wukong's relic. For many years, Red Boy had been having the same nightmare. In his childhood, he shared this nightmare with his mother. "Mother, there were so many people. They were all coming to kill me. My dear, once you fall asleep again, you'll forget all about it tomorrow." Yet the boy was excited. "But I am very powerful. I defeated monks as tall as mountains, strange birds, and fire-breathing statues. I'm not afraid of them at all. Oh, how brave you are, my dear." He continued, "I dreamt that I grew up into an adult, with long horns on my head and long spikes on my hands. I could kill a bunch of bad people at once, but there were too many of them. I couldn't kill them all. Later, some strange people I had never seen before came. They hung quietly in the sky, not coming down, just silently watching me from above." His mother pulled him into her arms. "If that day ever comes, your father and I will go to the sky with you and kill them all. Will we die?" "I dreamt that they killed me and I turned into a red lotus flower. And mother, you picked this lotus flower and I became your child again." He continued to chatter. "Mother, if I die, would you be willing to give birth to me again? Don't you ever say this again." Now, here I think the Red Boy was having nightmares from the past. Red Boy is technically the reincarnation of the child of the previous Yaksha King, along with some essence of the Yaksha King mixed in. I think the dreams the Red Boy is witnessing is of the battle that took place when the Yaksha Kingdom was destroyed by the Arats. Red Boy even mentions there were strange people in the sky that watched from above. A bit of speculation, but I think Yellowbrow was the one that invaded the Yaksha Kingdom, while the Celestial Court watched from above to ensure that the Yaksha Kingdom was indeed destroyed. I think what happened is that following the invasion by Wukong and Bull King into the Celestial Court, the Jade Emperor, as a punishment for the Bull King, wiped out the Yakshas and forced Princess Rakshasi to drink from the river of childbearing. Once Red Boy found out about his existence and how he came to be, he wanted Wukong's relic to seek revenge, but his father, too worried about the dangers, refused. This led to Red Boy rebelling against his father. Mount Lingshan, Vulture Peak before the Thunderclap Temple. Rakshasi clasped her intertwined hands tightly, studying her trembling body, striving to appear calm and serene. She had traveled to many places on this journey, domains of the Yaugwai kings she befriended in the mortal realm, abodes of the gods she met in the celestial realm, the immortal islands on the sea, and even the underworld. She had visited them all. She also went to the Tashida Palace to seek advice from her master, yet the latter had only offered a heartfelt persuasion. "I ordered you to raise a child, but I did not ask you to be a true mother. Let the boy stir his trouble. As long as you and your husband stay out of it, you will be safe." Her master's words left her in despair. She knew that no protection would the Flaming Mountains receive. This was their destiny ordained. But she knew her son all too well, reckless and wild, vengeful and unforgiving. After all the suffering he had endured over the years, unless he could vent his anger, the only way to resolve the siege of Flaming Mountains would be to break his spine. Thus she came here, for revenge. How to exact it? She had no idea, her mind a blank void. "Lady Rakshasi, the master summons you inside." Ananda stood at the temple door, his voice as gentle as ever. She straightened her back, gripping the plantain fan tightly in her hands, and hoarsely replied, "Thank you, Venerable," as she walked into the hall, flanked by the 8 great Vajras and 500 Arats, but all she saw in her peripheral vision were solemn and dignified figures. Reaching the base of the lotus throne, she knelt with her head held high, clutching the fan tightly. "Rakshasi, what brings you here to seek an audience with me?" She remained silent, gripping the fan with all her might, ready to unleash its divine wind at any moment. The hall was deathly quiet. All eyes were on her. She could feel the Vajras glaring with their angry eyes, the Arats staring with their wrathful gazes, and all the divine figures transforming into fierce visages. She lowered her head. I greet you on behalf of my master." A booming laughter echoed, deafening. Within that laughter, she heard the cries of an infant, the innocent giggles of a child, the roars of an adolescent, and the cycle of blooming and withering flowers, the growth of grass and the flight of orioles over millennia. She heard the embers extinguishing in the flaming mountains. In-game, when we defeat the Yaksha King, Princess Rakshasi shows up saying, "My king, I am sorry for my lateness." I turned to them, but none offered help. This is reflected in the journal entry where she visits her master, who says, "I ordered you to raise a child, but I did not ask you to be a true mother. Let the boy stir his trouble. As long as you and your husband stay out of it, you will be safe." Following that, she visits a temple that has a lotus throne. Now the only person I know with the lotus throne is Bodhisattva Guanyin. So Rakshasi went to seek out Guanyin. The last bit seems to embrace the full spectrum of life. Joy and sorrow, growth and decay, an integral part of existence. And we all know how it ended for Red Boy. He took his own life. The galaxy was clear and the sky was spotless. That night, a young Taoist boy sat by the furnace, fanning the fire. Feeling drowsy, he was about to sneak in a nap when he suddenly heard a soft laugh. Looking up, he saw his master standing at the door with a girl, watching him doze off. He quickly straightened his clothes and stood up to apologize. Contrary to his usual stern demeanor, the master did not scold him. Instead, he called the boy over and briefly introduced the newcomer, instructing them to guard the furnace together from now on. Finally, he said lightly, "She is your senior. You may call her Rakshasi." At first, the young Taoist boy was delighted to have a companion, but upon hearing that the newcomer was a senior, he felt displeased. As soon as the master left, he decided to make things difficult for her. Handing her a fan, he said, "The furnace is now your responsibility. It's only right that the older one does the work. Isn't it, my senior?" The girl did not argue and simply smiled. "Indeed, my junior, you may go rest." The next day, when the master ascended the altar, the girl approached. The young Taoist boy thought she was going to complain, but instead she said, "Master, as a new disciple, it is only right that I fan the fire. However, the fan my junior gave me is a bit small and not very handy." The master glanced at the young Taoist boy and smiled. "If that's the case, I'll make a new one for you. You may as well wield it as a nice vessel." The young Taoist boy had not expected his usually strict master to be so kind to the girl. Gradually, he began to see her in a new light. From then on, they practiced together. He discovered that the girl was adept in both Buddhist and Taoist teachings. No matter what scripture the master taught, she could always engage in discussion, whereas he often struggled to keep up both in speech and thought. Later, when the furnace was kicked over, he was severely punished by the master. While other disciples looked on coldly, it was only the senior who volunteered to descend to the mortal realm to help him. In the mortal realm, he learned that his senior had her own cave dwelling and a group of loyal followers. The master had even granted her the title of Earthly Immortal as compensation. Sometime later, the master arranged for her to marry a Yaksha King in the mortal realm. Though he felt a bit melancholic, he understood that he was ultimately unworthy of her, no matter how many dirty tasks he had done for the master. In the master's eyes, he would never be a match for her. I also want to mention here that this furnace might be what the higher-ups are using to make pills. Essentially the pill farm from chapter 4, where they are using Yaoguai's demons and humans to make pills. We similarly also use a furnace to make pills in the mortal realm. Now this makes me think that this master might actually be the Crane Immortal, aka Tai Shang Lao Jun. And in chapter 3 it's also mentioned that the Crane Immortal is the one that gifts one of the fans to one of the flying enemies. And here you see him also giving Rakshasi a fan vessel, which is probably the fan that we end up getting. It's merely speculation though, but essentially the Crane Immortal was behind chapter 4 with his monster cocoons, and also somewhat behind chapter 5 with the rebirth of Red Boy. Kinda crazy how these things tie up. And that's kind of it, the main stuff relating to chapter 5 and how it ties into Journey to the West. I know I didn't cover all journal entries and bosses, but I ran out of time.